Hi, I'm Sheri Strydhorst. I'm a research scientist with Alberta Agriculture and Forestry. I've been in this position for about 5-6 years, and what I've done is I work on cereal agronomy, looking at research to help producers increase yields, use inputs efficiently, and be profitable at the end of the day. We're here to talk about plant growth regulators. It's shortened by PGR. So plant growth regulators are not for every acre. They are for use under conditions of high moisture, high fertility. They're not intended for drought conditions. They're not intended for producers who are not pushing yields. If your yield potential is 30 bushels, they're not the tool for you. If your yield potential is 100 bushels, this is something you need to be considering. So plant growth regulators are applied to the leaves of the plant. And there's two different classes or two different ways in which they work. And they work slightly differently, but they do achieve the same thing at the end of the day. The first one is the Epithon that releases ethylene, and the trade name is Ethyl. And what that does is it reduces plant height very nicely. Ethyl needs to be applied at the correct growth stage between growth stage 37 to 45. So what that is the time from when the flag leaf is rolled to when it flips over and you start having awns poking out. Applications outside that window are really critical. You're going to cause yield reductions, yield loss, so don't do it. To demonstrate how critical this period is, growers in southern Alberta who are really well experienced with this product will spray the main part of their field. When it's at the correct growth stage, they will turn off their sprayer at low spots and come back 24 to 48 hours later when that part of the field is at the correct growth stage. So I think that very well demonstrates how critically the application timing is on these products. So Ethyl is a plant growth regulator with great risk and great reward. It needs to have incredibly particular timing. One of the constraints with it is that Bayer makes growers sign a waiver when they purchase it, indicating that if it is misused, Bayer is not liable, and crop staging on this is incredibly particular, so only experienced growers and agronomists should be using this product. The second class of plant growth regulators are Gibberellin biosynthesis inhibitors. So those are the types of Manipulator, and the active ingredient in that is chlormaclot chloride and trinexapac ethyl, a new plant growth regulator, and both of them reduce gibberellin activity in a plant. So gibberellin is a plant hormone that stretches things, it makes things taller and longer. So these plant growth regulators prevent that activity from happening. They shorten the plant, and they have a wider window of application and are much safer on the crop. So on the label, it is from growth stage 12, which is the two-leaf stage, to growth stage 39, which is when your flag leaf has unrolled and tipped over. So a wider window of application for crop safety, but for efficacy and to make that plant growth regulator work ideally, what we're actually looking for is a growth stage 31 to 32. So that's that timing of stem elongation. So we're going to be hitting that kind of in early June kind of timing, and you actually have to dig plants out of the ground, cut up the base, and look for movement of the nodes up the plant. And that's when you're going to get that most shortening, because if you apply that plant growth regulator at the flag leaf, that stretching and elongation has already happened, and we can't actually reverse, we just prevent stem elongation. Trinexapac ethyl is the second plant growth regulator that is used widely around the world in Europe, the United States, and there is an established MRL or maximum residue limit for the active ingredient Trinexapac ethyl, which makes no concerns for trade barriers. The concern for Canadian growers is that this product was submitted to PMRA for registration in January 2017, and we anticipate a decision from PMRA in mid-2019, and hopefully this will be a product available for use for growers in 2019 or 2020 growing seasons. So plant growth regulators are impacting the plant's hormonal system. So when you impact one plant hormone, you have cascading effects on the other hormonal systems in the plant. So what this results in is some unintended consequences, such as delayed maturity, so the plant can take another 2 to 3 days to mature. We can also have the plant sending sugars to the roots, and that can increase root growth, and this can yield to sometimes yield increases and sometimes yield decreases. So one of the things that we sometimes see with plant growth regulators regulators like a manipulator or an ethereal is they can change tillering of the plant. So you can get more late tillering happening, which our growing environment is actually quite negative. It can reduce yields. And what's happening there is that the plant has extra sugars or photoassimilates that they don't know what to do with, so it puts them into making extra stems. The other thing is we get some of those hormonal changes and we lose apical dominance in the plant. So again, we get that tillering that can often lead to yield reductions. So one of the things with plant growth regulators, particularly a product like Manipulator, is that they're short-lived in the plant, but sometimes that results in only temporary effects of height reduction. So for example, we spray a plant growth regulator, 10 to 14 days we measure and we see a very noticeable height reduction. What happens though is that by the time we get to the end of the growing season, sometimes that plant has outgrown that shortening. So you can actually sometimes have plants equal to or even taller than the plants that were unsprayed. So that's again one of those unintended consequences that we see picking up more often on some cultivars than on others. So one of the other consequences of plant growth regulator use that we've witnessed with Manipulator is a reduction in protein. So on a CWRS wheat variety where you need to make minimum protein requirements, if you have a protein drop, for example, from 13.1% to 12.9%, you're below that minimum protein requirement and you get significant grade reductions and price reductions. So of course, a very negative consequence with plant growth regulators. It doesn't occur consistently, but we have seen it. We've also seen that the application of a fungicide after that plant growth regulator can mitigate these effects. So Manipulator was registered with Health Canada's PMRA in 2013. However, while registered in Canada, there was not an MRL or a maximum residue limit for the active ingredient in Manipulator in the United States, which created a possible complication for trade disputes. So if a grower were to spray Manipulator and residues were found on wheat sold to the United States, that could cause trade barriers and closure of markets. So good news, in 2018, in April, the United States established an MRL for the active ingredient in Manipulator, and now growers in Western Canada can apply Manipulator to their wheat, and that wheat can be sold safely into the United States. And the registration is for spring wheat, winter wheat, and durum on those 3 crop types. And this is a new tool really available for growers this growing season, and make sure growers have the conversation with their grain buyer to make sure that they don't need to declare that they did not use this product.